The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host and or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of the host and or Paranormal Buzz Radio and or its sponsors. Use of any material produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is prohibited. Paranormal Buzz Radio will not be held responsible for you holding your knees, crying, and rocking in a corner in a puddle of your own urine, or being beheaded by a group of children in the cornfield. In fact, if you come across a group of children in a cornfield, we promise to make fun of you as you run away screaming in terror. Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to RAP Paranormal and Friends with your hosts,
Kim Purvis
and Allison Robinson. Make sure to check us out on our Facebook pages, RAP Paranormal and Friends and RAP Paranormal Busters, for up-to-date show information and events. Hey everyone, welcome to another night of RAP Paranormal and Friends. We have a special guest for you tonight. She is also part of the Paranormal Buzz radio crew. She is the host of the Demonfolklorist. So please welcome Victoria Jaye to the show. Welcome. How are you? Oh yeah, absolutely. So now you do a lot of your shows on Folklore. You also have had some where you talked about your family's kind of psychic or medium abilities. Do you want to kind of give us a background on how you got interested in all this and how you became aware of your abilities? It's kind of a whole full-blooded question here, but yeah.
I had started to have prophetic dreams. Mm-hmm. And then when I was about 8 or 9, that's when I noticed it.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's something I've just kind of been living with, and only more recently have gotten more into researching it. Mm-hmm. Because I guess because I had these abilities, I didn't really realize that it's not as common to have a lot of them right. Until I started talking to more people in the paranormal, and they were like, the things you can do are amazing. And I'm like, are they though? Like, yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's a cursing
Not in my family.
Or a blessing.
Yeah. But I got into this because I went to folklore grad school at Utah State.
Okay.
And I didn't have a good experience with the fairy tale expert on campus, and I didn't want to work with her on a different idea I had. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, what else do you know about? And it happened to be demons, because I had had a possession experience when I was 19. Okay. It was not a demon, mm-hmm. but I didn't know that at the time.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And that's really how I got involved in this. And yeah.
What was it like having a possession?
Awful. Like, it's mostly, I think what's the most awful about it is the oppression. So there are several stages to demonic infestations. Mm-hmm. One of them's encroachment, when they're trying to find a way into your life. Infestation, when they start doing crazy stuff and stirring up chaos. Mm-hmm. And then oppression is when, like, they single out an individual and break them down. Mm-hmm. That's the worst part, because you literally feel like you're going insane. And I had horrible hallucinations of all kinds. It was mostly because I wasn't sleeping.
Right.
But then there were things, because it would be so much easier if I could just be like, you know what? This was a psychotic break. That's it. It's okay. They happen. Nope, there were things that other people in my family who were not having psychotic breaks were experiencing. So it got much bigger than that. And it was just really hard for me because the not sleeping, I couldn't eat because I would throw up food. Like, it all became really, really horrible. And I got whittled down to like a size 3, which I've never been in my entire life. And not to say anything about people who are size
Right. Yeah.
3s, but
Yeah.
I was never that small. So
Yeah. I don't
that kind of
remember a
shows you
time
how
I
bad it was.
either.
Right. No, that's so real.
It is. Now, how did you get out of this?
I didn't.
You did?
That's the thing. I don't think it was a demon. I think it might have been a jinn or some type of similar creature because I just woke up one day and 3 days of my life were gone and unaccounted for because I wasn't there. And I just tried to figure out what had happened and where I was. I was in a mental institution in Las Vegas and work backward from there, but I didn't really do anything to facilitate like getting it out of me. It came out on its own.
Wow.
It might have been because I regained my will and I was strong enough to push it out because our bodies are our own. That's why possession is such a horrible experience. It's because it is trying to forcibly take your will from you. And unless you are in a place where you are psychologically, physically, all sorts of ways vulnerable, they can't do it very easily. That's why it's such torture.
Yeah. I was going to say, I just wanted to see what your, when you said you were having possession, I don't think I have a possession, but I do have something that I have gone through different stages. My moods do change. I do have I am a different person than my parents, and relatives that don't see me that often have noticed a change in me from when I go to like, these paranormal investigations and things. And that's something that I kind of struggle with, I think, trying to maybe regain myself, and getting this thing out. So I don't have these typical mood swings, or I do channel. Have you had any of those episodes? Have you ever done any channeling?
A little bit, but it's not something I regularly do. Mostly because I don't really trust spirits to not have malicious intent. Not that, every spirit is different. But it's not an interest of mine really to talk to the dead or even to different entities. So I guess not. Not really, but
yeah. And see, that's the thing, is that when I go to these locations, my intent is not to do that, but sometimes I just get lost in it, and it kind of, whatever this is, kind of takes a hold, and that's the same thing that comes through every time. So I was just interesting to hear what you had, some of the things that you touched on. I mean, I haven't lost weight or anything like that. It's just more.
That's during the process of like a full possession. It does sound like you are going through some type of entity maybe being attached to you and trying to take control.
Right.
What has been the phenomena that you've noticed, like unnatural things happening around you? Because that will tell us a lot more about what you're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really notice anything at home a lot per se. My kids will notice things that happen around the house, and they'll say, "Mom, you brought something home again." But it's more when I'm in a location, and sometimes certain things trigger me to have this effect, and in different locations, it seems like, have this effect on me more so than others. So that's kind of, I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, but that's what we're just trying to, I don't know, I'm just trying to figure out how to. I've had, some other people tell me how to get rid of things, and so, but it was just interesting hearing you say some of the phases that you've gone through, and I've been told that this could be what this is leading up to. So that's why I was just asking what you did to kind of help, take care of yourself and get out of that.
When the will is strong of a person, it will push it back anyway. So it's really just like when people ask me like, oh, what's the best way to like keep away demons or even other entities? It's to keep yourself healthy, spiritually, mentally, all of those things, so that it can attack those things. And that's always what we tell people to do first if they do think they're dealing with something like that. It depends heavily on whether or not this is like a jinn or maybe a once human spirit, possibly a Dybbuk from Jewish folklore. Because if it's human, you can essentially just tell it to go, that it is not welcome here. Or if it's a jinn, you may have to use like Islamic prayers and that sort of thing. So I would do some tests, actually. See what it responds to, because you'll feel it when it doesn't like something. And then go from there. Because there are different ways to cast out different things. But it depends heavily on whether or not this is human or non-human.
Gotcha. That's a good way to put it. Excuse me. Now, we got kind of off a rabbit hole there just because you were talking about that, and I wanted to see what you thought about my experiences. But
sure.
If you want to go back to kind of talking to us about your folklore, I know you were talking about, demons and things like that, but you also discussed back in college, you talked about fairies and things. Is that something else that you like to dive into, or?
I like all sorts of things, honestly, in folklore. And what I love most about it is there's so many different types of folklore. I really don't have to choose. I can love all of it.
Do you have a favorite folklore or anything that comes to mind?
Not really, although there are parts of folklore that like I tend to gravitate towards, like fairy tales. I really love fairy tales. Irish, yes. Mostly the supernatural, and as far as an experience. I would even go as far to call myself an experiential folklorist, but most people don't know what I mean when I say that. I just mean that I like to look at experiences.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Mostly of the supernatural variety, and usually negative, because when people are having sunny supernatural experiences, that's what we call them, when they are good and somehow revitalizing or meaningful to you in some way. They aren't as interesting, I don't think, because they're wonderful, but what about the other stuff? What about the darker stuff? That's right. Me in a nutshell. I'm always all about the darker stuff.
Yeah. I think we all kind of dive down that rabbit hole, I think.
For sure.
I think we have a question in chat. Darren wants to know, do you think that you created your own attachment or poltergeist?
No.
No?
So the reason for that is because I don't believe you can do that and have that much power. So when it comes to thought forms in general, they can create these things. Like, for instance, I'm going to bring up like the Dybbuk box. The Dybbuk box is not real. It's an anti-Semitic tale, but I don't think it started that way. It was just a really good story, and it turned into this anti-Semitic rabbit hole. But maybe now there is a thought form attached to it because so many people think about it and like project energy. But the truth was, I did not know very much about being psychic. I don't think I would have been able to break myself down in this way. Because it was outside of myself. Now, could it have been PK energy? I doubt it. I was not going through puberty. I was a full-grown adult. And there were things that happened that just didn't follow the pattern of poltergeist, because I've looked heavily into them too. Those are more neutral, sort of miraculous happenings. When it comes to demons or like jinn or all these different things where they like try to get inside, it's always very negative. With demons, it's like crazy negative, like malicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, I don't think so, but it's a good question. I enjoy questions like that because it's kind of a thinker. It's like,
Right.
is it possible? And it's like,
Mm-hmm.
not for it to attack you in that way, I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
But thought forms, I think, are possible,
Mm-hmm.
just not ones that can derail your whole life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's kind of when my life went off the rails a little bit at 19. And so I don't think so, but I appreciate the question.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Darren. We appreciate it. Now you have a podcast on Paranormal Buzz as well. And yours is what is it, the second Monday or third Monday of every month? I get so confused. There's so many of them I have to try to remember.
It's okay. There really are. I understand. It is the second Monday, although unfortunately this month I'm actually under the weather myself.
Right, yes.
And traveling and all sorts of stuff has happened. So I'm actually pushing that back till the end of this month.
Yes, yeah. Shay sent me that info this morning. So I sent out a thing on Twitter if anybody caught that. So it will be pushed back. There is a postponement on that next show. But you also, in the mix of all this, you have a book that's coming out, and you said it was coming out on Halloween, which is pretty awesome. So do you want to kind of tell us what your book is, what's it called, and what's it's about?
Sure. So it's called The Black Hours, Modern Demonic Experiences and Folklore, and it's meant to be a guide to help paranormal investigators, but also the public, identify demons when they come across them, or if they think they're having an experience that maybe could be a demon. It's listed as a checklist. It's got background information so that people have sort of an introductory text to demonology and the sort of things that we happen to know through the various research methods that demonologists have gone through to figure out this information. But I don't consider myself a demonologist. I don't do what they do. They go into these places, they try to help people. I'm a little too psychic. I think I'd just be a problem and a hindrance and pass out. And it's like, no one needs that on their investigation, you know? So it's I prefer to research and to help people that way. And so I'm always a good informational resource. But for my thesis work, what I had done is create a classification system based on sight, sound, feeling, and smell, so that people could figure out what the factors were to demonic infestations that are different than other types of entities. And I've highlighted all of those. It's all laid out as like a checklist. So if you really thought you were having a demonic experience, you could go through the list and very literally check it off and be like, oh, this happened. Oh my gosh, this happened too. And the more you check off, the more likely you have a demon. But the biggest thing that I ask people to ask themselves before they reach out, before they try and get help with their demonic entity, because they're very rare, is, do you feel at any point in time you were in the presence of evil? That question will pretty much eliminate 90%, actually maybe even 95% of all people's cases who think they have a demon. If you don't feel this thing was going to hurt you, that you were terrified and you wanted to run with every ounce of your being, then no, it wasn't a demon. But that doesn't mean that you don't have a dangerous spirit. There are other types. There are other types that can possess people. So.
Yeah. You've got all sorts of spirits. You've got some that are nice. You've got some that are just angry, grumpy, mean people. They were like that in real life, and they're like that after death, a lot of them. And so, you know, I think that's kind of a misconception sometimes when you go into the paranormal world and you're investigating. Sometimes they might come across a spirit who might be mad, grumpy, something. And just because they say get out or that they're a demon doesn't necessarily mean they're a demon. They're probably just somebody who's just trying to scare you off because they don't want you bothering them.
Yeah, and that's kind of fair. Like, if I was a spirit, I'd be like, get out. Like, I don't want you here, man. Like, take your camera crews and get out. Like,
right, yeah. But, we get that whole thing, and that's like a big thing right now, is that a lot of people go in and think everything's a demon, or they try to make it seem like it you know what I mean?
It ups the ante. It makes everything much more exciting and dangerous.
Yes. Yep.
I view all of that as entertainment, but the problem is most people don't see it that way. Yeah,
they're
like, they're like, no, this is real.
This is real. This is legit. Oh my God. It's like, come on, really? Come on now.
Yeah.
Like, I know. That's one of our things. We're like, when we go on there, we're like, oh, it's a demon. Like, yeah.
Or we'll take somebody new that's never been on it. The first thing we tell them, you've watched too much TV, get it out of your mind, because it ain't the same.
It's not the same.
No, not at all.
9 times out of 10, when you go on an investigation, it's like watching paint dry.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's not like you see on TV.
No, you really got to have that patience and to try and like tune in when nothing's happening.
Right, yeah.
I don't particularly have that patience. I'm just not a patient person. I'll go.
I'm not a patient person either, but I don't know how I'm able to do this.
Probably because of the possibility that something could randomly happen.
Right, yeah.
Keeps you going. But I'm not a paranormal investigator.
Yeah.
It's not that I'm not interested. I'll go. It's not really like for me, I guess. Like, although I have done one in the Lizzie Borden house. That was very interesting.
Ooh, yeah, okay. That'd be
But
interesting.
I didn't feel I was ever in danger or anything there, but there was a very strong, like, spirit there as far as energy. When it was nearby, because there was a group of women, it was the Feminine Macabre group.
Oh, yes, yeah.
We all went.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And we all went, and it was peeking in, like, I feel things, I don't really see them, but I could feel it was kind of traveling a little bit, trying to see what we were doing, and every time it got close, I felt it as electrical, like it would go through my limbs and my fingers, and I would just be like this, just almost like stretching out, because I was so uncomfortable with how much energy it held.
Oh, yeah.
But overall, I didn't feel there was a menacing presence of any kind, actually a motherly one. Which might have been my bunkmate's deceased mother, who was watching over us. I didn't feel any kind of maliciousness whatsoever. It didn't really bother me very much. And I had never really been on one of these things, so I wasn't sure what to expect.
Right, yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what you go. Like, our first one was, we went to the Villisca Axe murder house. And
oh, okay.
And you've already got that mindset that, okay, people were murdered in there, so you've got to try to block all that out, and then try to investigate.
Right, yeah, and I mean, we didn't feel threatened or anything there, but you do feel a lot of heaviness, sadness. You know what I mean? Like, you get that feeling, But yeah, I mean, it's different for everybody that goes. But you mentioned the Feminine Macabre, so you have some stories in there, right?
So I had a piece that was published through the Feminine Macabre on Midsummer and Monstrosity.
Okay.
But it ended up in Haunted Magazine.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, perfect. All right.
So that was super cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Excuse me. Okay. Now, have you written any other pieces?
Oh yeah, all the time. I write habitually for American Paranormal Magazine. I had one just come out recently on evaluating the Insidious movies for demonic phenomena. Because even like, it may sound silly to some people, like, why are you evaluating fictional movies? And it's like, because some people walk out of there and they think what they just saw was 100% real.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, some people are just like that, and it's like, what the?
I know, like,
like to know what they're smoking.
Yeah, same. But, I feel the need to do this with like basically every demon series. I've done it with the Conjuring movies that have come out thus far. I did that for Haunt Jaunts. What else? I've done a couple, like all of the big ones I've done. I'm going to have to go through the Exorcist movies.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not really a fan of the original Exorcist. I can appreciate it. It was groundbreaking. It was fascinating. It did amazing things with makeup. But why is the demon British? I just need to know. So it doesn't really do much for me, but I'd like to go through that series eventually. I'm trying to think of other ones I've done. I like to evaluate things to see if there's any truth in demonic folklore that matches up with the story, like I did Amityville and the Bell Witch, and just anything that catches my interest, and I'll submit it to them. I've started recently working with Paranormal Daily News, and I'll have a column with them that's all about like folklore and
awesome,
probably gin stuff, since I'm writing a gin book right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And then besides all your writing and everything, and I know you've talked about kind of your abilities, I kind of want to go back to that because I did kind of listen to some of your podcasts there with was it your mom and your sister? Yeah, and you guys were talking about some of your stories from back in the day and things, and now, did you call yours clairaudience? Is that what you... Okay.
It's mainly how I receive information. I hear it, but in my own voice in my head.
Gotcha.
And it's like thoughts that just like pop in there that I was not thinking about. And they are almost always something that I need to know or that have some type of practical application in the real world. It's whether you believe in that or not, it's like up to you. But yeah, that's mainly how I receive information, or I feel it so intensely. It's like I can see it like in my third eye. So.
Okay, that's what I was wondering, because, everybody has their different ways of interpreting that. And like, I mean, I can sense things in a room, but a lot of times, sometimes I will get like, a voice that'll say, they don't say a lot, they'll say like a name or something to that effect, and they'll repeat it until I try to make it something that I'm actually searching for or researching, or like I get like, they're almost like little video clips of stuff that this person is going through in their life. Have you ever had anything like that happen?
Sometimes it's not exactly like that, because I generally don't go into those places, but have I gotten like, I kind of call them like downloads from different things. Yeah, like I actually had that kind of when I was in the Lizzie Borden house, or rather Lisbeth Borden, because we don't believe she did it, and she preferred to be called Lisbeth. But I felt that possibly the murder had something to do with her stepmom, Abby Borden. And I can't explain that. I could be way off base, and that's okay with me, because I consider everything folklore kind of to begin with. We can guess at things. Also, when I went to Salem the next day with my parents, the Femmacabre group also went, but I didn't go with them because my parents wanted to explore. So, yeah, I went to Gallows Hill, and I knew where it was because my folklore teacher had told us where it was, that it's behind a CVS. And we learned from a guy who tends the gravestones over on, I can't remember the name. I'm terrible with names.
That's okay.
But where all the gravestones are to remember them. He told us we could walk around and up around it. But it was funny. Me and my mom were walking behind this CVS, and we both stopped at the same time because I figured out where it was.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't because I was like thinking about it like logically. I was just sort of feeling, and then suddenly I stopped because I could feel the gravity of this place. It was like a jutting out kind of piece of rock, and I'm like, that's where it is. Because of this how solemn it felt, how grave, how sad.
Wow.
And we just, we stood there and sort of took it in, and then I went up and around to go see it closer, and I felt the same thing up there as well.
Wow, that's amazing. Sorry, I'm sticking to my chair.
No, that's so real, especially in the summertime.
Oh my gosh. I have the air cranked, but gosh dang. Feel the skin right off my legs. Sorry, my voice is going in and out.
You're fine.
This is what our show is all about. There's always a point where we kind of go down a rabbit hole or have a squirrel moment or something, and I get sidetracked. It's totally normal for our show. Like, that's, you gotta keep it kind of, you gotta keep people on their toes. Like, hey, are you still listening? Like, what did I just say?
No, I get you. I'm the same way. My entire show, if you've listened, is all rabbit holes. So,
no,
I get it.
That's totally fine. That's what we do too. We do have another question. Well, I don't know if she does cases, Darren, but he was wanting to know what's the worst case you ever dealt with. But I think maybe he missed that you don't go in and do homes and things like that, right? Or have you ever had anybody come to you with like, wanting just your guidance on something like that?
Oh, absolutely. All the time. I have to preface every message I get. I have it on my Facebook where people can contact me. Like, I'm not an exorcist and I'm not a demonologist. I'm a researcher. I can offer you information only. But so when my thesis was first published online, people started finding it and it grew rapidly. The numbers count. And that's when people started to mildly stalk me on Facebook to try and talk to me.
Oh my gosh.
And asking me like, hey, did you write this? And I was like, yeah, I wrote it. What's going on? And they're just like, sorry, 1 second. Yeah, I do. I'm doing an interview right now, Dad. Forgot to tell them. Oh, well.
That's okay.
Anyway. Yes, I live with my parents. Anyway. So I don't really get involved with cases, but there have been hundreds of people, honestly, at this point, who have reached out to me. Only one of them sounded like a genuine demonic case based off the phenomena. So that should kind of show you how rare they are. Incredibly rare. Many deliverance ministers and people who actually work in demonology have never seen or experienced a real demon. It happens all among paranormal investigators too. I'm sure you guys know that most of them don't actually believe in demons since they've never come across one.
Yeah, I mean, like, average folks like us, but maybe others in the TV world maybe more so. But yeah, us, no.
I doubt it. I deeply doubt it.
We don't. Yeah, we don't. Never come across anything like that. Never.
I'm glad you haven't, because it's horrible.
Oh, I'm sure.
Every single time somebody has.
I'm sure it is. I mean, we've had people on our show that say that everything is a demon, or that there are more than what we think, but I don't know if I agree with that.
Anybody
who
says that,
I'm just saying.
I can say from a professional, if I learned how to speak, perspective, that no, they are not common at all. Anybody who says otherwise is selling something.
Yeah.
Because we would have much more to deal with that we've come across. Most of what people mistake for demons are usually jinn or higher level entities that can possess people. And they think that because they can possess people, that's automatically a demon, but that's categorically untrue. There are more things in the world than even we understand.
Oh yeah, absolutely, for sure. Like, I mean, there are a lot of things out there that we don't know, and there are some things that some people may know, but they're holding information on that. But excuse me. Now I lost my train of thought.
Totally
Squirrel
fine.
moment. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with the whole thing. But, like, yeah, I mean, I believe that there could be extraterrestrials or, you know, other beings out there than just us. But let's see here. We do have another question, though, in chat. What are things in the paranormal field that you do not agree with? And on the flip side, what are things that you do agree with? I mean, I know you don't do a lot of investigations or anything like that, but from what you see, you're...
Well, I mean, it kind of feeds into what we were just talking about, like that everything is a demon narrative is absolutely untrue. It is, even for somebody who does enjoy, like, my main area is demonic folklore, and I love it, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't get on my nerves too, because everybody reaches out to me like, oh my God, I have a demon. And I'm like, I bet you don't, though. But I try to say it in a nice way.
Right. Yeah.
So that's one thing. I think there needs to be higher levels of diversity and more women and trans people and everybody. I think we would benefit from everyone's perspective on the paranormal and in these teams and on TV and actual investigators, not just entertainers who are kind of pretending to investigate.
Right, exactly.
Let's see, what else? So that's one of the things I do agree with. There's been a push in recent years. And it's people with lower view counts, I feel like. People with less followers that are calling out the abuses and being like, hey, this is not as amazing as it could be. We could be making a better paranormal community for everybody to join, but not everybody feels welcome.
Right, yeah, no, and I get that 100%. Like, I mean, we've been doing our thing for, almost 10 years now.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I mean, we're not, you know, in it for anything other than just trying to...
We're just out
to try to figure out what this phenomena is that everybody experiences and why, what is causing it and why are they still here. Some of these spirits, you know, if they think they're spirits or what have you. That's what we're in it for. And plus we've made a lot of friends too.
A lot of friends
in this community. They're actually good people. So I like our little tight group that we have. But, you know, there's others out there that are just kind of mean and cruel and are out for themselves
or backstabby and clicky, and it's like,
no,
I don't get it.
Yeah, Kim and
not for me.
Kim and I, we go to different events. We've gone to other people's, you know, events at haunted locations and have learned from them and investigated with them, and you know, we have other people go with us, and so that's just kind of how we are. We like to kind of network, you know, with other people and just kind of learn
their ways, and maybe they learn something from us. And
absolutely. I think it should be a community of sharing.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Because it's not all about glory or view counts or any of that. That we should be sharing our findings so that we can build a better picture of what the paranormal even is. So, yeah, like I wish there was more like friendship and less competition. Because I really doubt I'll ever be like, I don't know, super famous or anything, but if one person picks up my book and realizes that what's been bothering them maybe isn't a demon, I feel I've done my job.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Or even if it was a demon, they now have this list of like, oh, this is exactly what it is. And they can show it to me and I'll be like, oh, yep, probably. You should get some help with that.
Right, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, where are we going to be able to purchase this book?
So you can go on hearuscream.com/store, I believe. But if you just go into their website, hearuscream.com, and go into the store.
What was that again?
Hear Us Scream.
Oh, Hear Us Scream. Okay.
And, you go into their store. I think mine is the second one listed. It is available for pre-order on ebook and a physical copy.
Okay.
So that's where it's being sold right now.
And that'll be it'll be available on Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah, my publisher found out it was on a Monday, and she was like, "Absolutely, we have to do this." And I'm like, "Hey, that sounds great to me."
Yeah. Now, let me see if there's any other questions real quick before I go into that. 'Cause, as of right now, if anybody has any other questions before we wrap things up, just let me know. But now, social media, I know you're on Twitter and Instagram. Do you have Facebook or anything like that? You do have Facebook, you said, right? Okay. Is it all under the kind of the same thing?
Yeah, for the most part. If you search Demon Folklorist, you can probably find all of my accounts. I have a new website that I just launched, thenoveltyshop.blog. And shop is spelled with 2 P's and an E at the end. And I have an Instagram account under that one too. That's for my horror movie and folklore stuff because it got too big, the body of work. So I just decided to split them. So Demon Folklorist is all about demon stuff and the podcast.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Yes. If you haven't checked out Victoria's podcast, like I said, you can find it here on the Paranormal Buzz Network on second Monday of the month.
But it's at the end of this month?
But this month it'll be at the end of this month, so keep that in mind. I'll get it posted for you when I get the new updated date for that. And then, and that's is it at 8/7 Central?
I'm going to be honest. I actually don't know because I live in Mexico normally, and I'm in Wyoming at the moment. So time means nothing to me.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah.
It probably is 8/7 Central. I'm really not sure. Whatever the thing says, that's what it is.
I've got way too many of them to keep track of. So let's see here. I'll just look it up real quick. It is 7/6 Central. I can remember.
Awesome.
I know ours is 8/7. Some are 7/6. Some are, real wackadoo times I can't keep track of half the time. But
fair. That's very fair.
Oh my gosh, it gets to be too much. All right, let me see here. Any last questions? Let's see here. Oh, we have one. Okay. So this is a running question that Darren has asked on our show and other shows since we started many moons ago. 5 years ago? 4 or 5 years ago? Something like that. What's the one object in the world that you would never want to be haunted? We haven't done this one in a while, Darren. We haven't done it in a while.
Okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't have like a one
answer.
I have like a big one. So
sure, yeah.
The one that I think would be the worst though, so actually I changed my mind. I do have an answer. A mirror.
Oh,
I think that could be the worst thing because something about my case had to do with mirrors being pointed at my bed. So having one that's already haunted, that just seems like a bad time. But really, my nightmare is bringing home anything from like an antique store and then finding out it's haunted. Like, there are some people who go and buy things on purpose because they know they're haunted.
Right.
It's when you don't know and you're not paying attention or something like that, and the warning bells are going off, and you're like, no, but it's so beautiful or whatever.
Yeah.
And you bring it home and it's haunted as hell. So, you know.
Yeah. That's a good one. I don't think we've had a mirror yet, Darren. We'll have to check his list. But on our show, I don't think we've had that. I think the number one has been like a toilet or something like that.
That would be horrible, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Toilet and car are runner-ups.
I think so.
Yeah.
We've had
Fair.
garbage disposal.
We have had a garbage disposal.
That's amazing.
Yeah, we've had some good answers. Some people really get into that. Like, they're like, oh, yeah. Oh, my favorite one, though, is Michelle Belanger. She said, a butt plug. We had this whole serious conversation the whole time, and she came up with that, and I was just like,
Yep.
I love
That's very real. I'm familiar with Michelle's work. I use their work a lot in my own studies. So they're brilliant.
Oh yeah.
You're hilarious.
Oh my gosh, yes, I know. I love to read her stuff. So yeah, she's awesome. Anyways, once again, thank you Victoria for being on the show. Make sure you check out her podcast, Second Monday of the Month. Usually this month, it'll be at the end of the month. Demon Folklorist. She has a new book coming out. Again, it is Dark Hours, right?
The Black
Hours. Black Hours, yes. Check that out. That'll be available Halloween, and you said that was at hearuscream.com. So check that out. We'll post all that information on our websites as well. Thank you to everybody who was in chat. Thank you to everybody who was not in chat but listening. We appreciate each and every one of you. And we'll be back next week. I have a guest coming on. Her name is Carmen. And I believe we're going to be talking about astrology. I believe that's what it is. So stay tuned for that. And peace out, everybody.